Okay, just before we move on to intra, so between different species, within the same species, just make sure that you've got an idea of these plant responses to the biotic environment. So there are plant-plant relationships, there are plant-fungi relationships, plant-animal, plant defensives, and cooperative relationships in plants. So you just need to go through and make sure that you understand these terms, and I would probably make some OneNote notes about what each of these definitions are of these things. Okay, so just work your way through looking at them. Most of it's kind of obvious, about how a plant defends itself, how different animals eat plants, how plants work together in pollinating. And then there's some NCA questions there that you can have a go at. I will stick an extra page in there in OneNote so that you can record those notes there. Because there are obviously questions in the past that have been asked for NCA. Quite a few by the looks. Okay, so moving on to intraspecific relationships. I want you to go through and watch these 3 videos before you start. Okay, and once you've watched those videos, then these are the different relationships that we're going to look at. So competition for resources, territoriality, hierarchical behaviour, group interactions, and reproductive behaviours. And basically what you need to do is down here give a definition for each of those behaviours, give an example, give the advantages and also the disadvantages, because these behaviours can come with lots of risks as well as advantages. So I'm going to briefly go through them, but you will need to scroll to the bottom and watch some of these online activities and videos under each of these headings and then fill in the information at the top. Okay, and then go have a go at Biozone, and then lastly have a go at the NCA questions. Okay. So just quickly, be good if you could go to the page here in OneNote and write down some advantages of grouping. That would be cool. Here are some of them. Be good if some of those turned up on that brainstorm page. So they're pretty obvious. So safety in numbers, you can hunt together, bring down bigger prey, you can have one person looking for predators while the rest of you are feeding, you're more accessible to mates, you can learn and pass on knowledge, you can keep together like penguins do for warmth, you can share responsibility, so some stay and look after the young while the others go hunting. You can get role specialisation, so if you think of bees in a beehive, they each have a different job. Friendship. Okay, population size, so breeding ability, and aerodynamics, so birds flying in a V formation. So they're the advantages. Okay, also in here, if you could brainstorm some disadvantages, that would be really good. Mostly there's competition. If you're living together, then you're all after the food, you're all after the mates, you're all after the shelter. People can see you, predators can see you more easily if you're in a big group of you. If you're close together, you're more likely to transfer diseases. If you're in a hierarchy and you're at the bottom of that hierarchy, you're going to have access to less resources, and you can have cannibalism, which isn't very nice. Okay, so reproductive behaviours first. There's courtship, mating, pair bond, and parental care. So it goes against a animal's natural instinct to get close to another animal. Okay, so it's kind of innate in most animals to stay away from each other because they're going to more likely to be in competition with you, so you stay away from them. So why do we have courtship behaviours? If you go and watch some of these videos, there's some really cool ones of the different courtship displays that animals have, and the reason they do that is to make sure that they are the same species. Okay, they make sure that they're only going to mate with the fittest, and they make sure that the animal's in heat or is it fertile at that time. So how do they do these things? They, as you'll see from the videos, there's dancing, leaving smells behind, building nests, calling, puffing up, fighting, all sorts of things. Okay. Again, lots of videos there to watch about courtship. So once they have managed to suppress the aggression with the courtship behaviour that made sure that they're the same species, then they can mate. While they're mating, they're at risk of predation from other animals, but the mating helps them form a bond. There's different kinds of reproductive strategies, and if you go through and learn each of the different ones, that would be helpful. Okay, once you've mated, some organisms will then depart and that's it, they don't see them again. Others of them will create a pair bond. So a pair bond is a stable relationship between animals of the opposite sex. and they stay together and will rear the young. Okay, so what's the advantage of that? You've got by being together, you're sharing the workload. You're also protecting each other and protecting your young. One can sit while the other one goes feed. It's less energy expended overall, and you can keep things and each other warm, which is lovely. Okay, there are two different kinds of parental care. There's the R strategy. Okay, so the R strategy is where you have lots of offspring, little parental care. So you think of turtles, they lay lots and lots of eggs, and then the mother leaves. Lots of them die, but because there are so many, some of them do survive. Okay, then there's the K strategy. That's what humans do basically. We have 1 or 2 children and we spend a lot of time looking after them, and therefore they more than likely survive to parenthood. There's not one that's better than the other. They're just different, and obviously, again, if they weren't both good, then they wouldn't both exist. Both of them have their advantages and disadvantages. Watch the videos and learn about them. There's some NCA questions to answer on parental care and courtship behaviours. Okay, lots of NCA questions. So, aggressive, antagonistic behaviour. So, aggression is not necessarily and usually isn't fighting to the death, but it's used to maintain a territory. It's used in competition, and sometimes it's used to get a mate's attention, and it's used to maintain a hierarchy. Okay, so it's usually within species, the same species. It involves threatening and fighting, and it determines who gets access to the resource, whether that's to mate or to eat the food or whatever. Okay, and that behaviour is usually not to the death. Okay, so a territory is an area that's marked and defended, and it's defended using aggressive behaviours. But the idea of aggressive behaviour is that, a dog snarling will mean another dog backs off and goes away. It's in the best interests of both dogs not to actually fight. Okay, so because fighting could lead to one of them being injured, and they are still the same species, so they don't really want to be killing each other off. Okay, so what's the benefit of having a territory? You can reduce disease, you can reduce fighting, you can make sure there's enough food for everyone, breeding sites, you can make sure that you know your area really well and you can defend it, you can look after the young. Disadvantages are that you could fail to breed if you don't have a territory. Marking and defending can be quite time consuming. Okay, again, some NCA questions to answer on those. So competition is going to occur within species of the same species. Hierarchies are there to reduce competition. So what happens is you end up with a top dog or a pecking order. One's at the top, he makes the decisions, he gets first access to resources, food and mates, and the rest of them all kind of trail down behind. And in chickens it's maintained by pecking each other, so that's why it's called a pecking order, and it means that every time some food comes along you don't have to fight to see who's the most dominant one. It's just a known, and it overall actually reduces aggression within a group. Okay, so group formation, hunting, defence, protection. We've got lots of advantages, a few disadvantages, so disease and things like that, but overall being in a group is quite good. So again, lots of NCA questions to practice your group formation on. And that's the end of it. So what you need to do is make sure you've gone through and you've given a definition and an example for each of these things. Have a go at Biozone. It's got lots of good little contextual things because you're going to get a contextual question in the exam. Make sure you've watched at least 3 videos from each. There's lots of questions and notes here that you can go through and look at. And then if you could go to the collaboration space and fill in the intraspecific one here for how, what, when, and some examples. If you could do that for one of these, that would be really good, and then you can share each other's knowledge and help with that. So we've finished the topic now. You need to go do some revision. There's lots of websites and things there that you can do revision on. If you look back here under content library and up the top here under lesson things down here for revision, what can you go do? You can look at the worksheets that are saved in, if you go to groups, so up here under the 9 boxes, There we go, up here under the 9 boxes, and click on groups, or people, sorry, and then over on the side you need to click on 300 biology. It's still loading. There we go, 300 biology group, and then up here under files, and then under plant and animal responses, there's a heap of PowerPoints, revision notes, worksheets, you name it, it's there, but there's more than enough for you to do. Okay, so do some revision, get your biozone all finished, and you're all done for this topic. Well done.